Welcome to episode 4 of Live Life by Design. I'm your host, Nicole Mantia-Parado, and I have a very, very special guest here with us today. And this is not your ordinary woman. The woman who I'm about to introduce you to has lived a very transformative life and has been through highs and lows of grief, death, heartbreak, but also forgiveness, joy, love, and pleasure. Gaile Lynn is a guardian of transitions, a guide to the unknown, also known as the angel of death. Gail is the published author of Filigree Wings of Steel, a story which details her profound journey from trauma to triumph. Let me tell you, this woman has alchemized so much to be able to share these pearls of wisdom, insights, and higher perspectives around death and transition with you. Travel and transformation have been a big part of Gaile's life. The spirit of the land of Hawaii called her forth. She listened and left her home base of Detroit and ventured into the unknown. I think she stopped in LA for a little bit, but we'll talk more about that. Gail is a world traveler. She has answered the call, like so many of us, to visit many sacred sites, including those of India, Egypt, and the Glastonbury region in the UK. And for over 2 decades, she studied with masters of various philosophies and energy modalities, which opened her mind and her perception of the world. Gail gives most of her credit of healing and spiritual growth to the non-dual work of A Course in Miracles, which has also sourced her illuminating and empowering perspectives on death. Today, Gail is here to reveal what lies beyond the veil of a departed soul's new journey. Her steadfast intention is to heal the existing fearful perceptions of death, to initiate the notion that the soul's transition is a miracle, and to create liberation for the living as a direct result of both. Meet the woman who has chosen to adopt the role of the angel of death. Welcome, Gail.
Mahalo, sister.
So happy to have you here.
Fine feathered friend. I love you so much.
I love you so much. And I have to say, this is not your ordinary podcast, guys. So if you're listening to this, I want you to pause, get some cacao, get some tea, and really dive in, because you're not going to want to miss this, because there's going to be so much alchemy and divine feminine wisdom and healing here for you today. And we are open for it, and we are ready for it, and we are ready to deliver this to you. So let's start, because we want to prime the field for all of you before we dive deep into what is the angel of death and what all of this even means. So I invite you to close your eyes and to take some deep, nourishing breaths that ground you into your body, that open your mind to higher perspectives and wisdom, and new ways to look at death, grief, and transition, and to trust your soul and your heart's calling, because we are in a time where everything is shifting. And you as a listener, I'm sure, are going through some sort of transition. We're all evolving. It's part of our life. Grief, shame, pleasure, joy, all the spectrum of emotions. And so I offer today's wisdom and frequency to open your mind, to open your hearts, and to have some liberation and healing around the transitions that you're going through. Gail, would you like to add anything to the field as we're inviting the energies in.
The power of forgiveness, which is I have a different point of view about that, but just the energetic quality of forgiveness. Um, yeah, that's important and yummy.
Mhm. So, in the topic of forgiveness, I want to first bring to the attention of the viewers the calling that you followed to move to Hawaii and why you were put on that trajectory. So, can you speak to that journey? Because I know so many people get that call and they don't listen. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And I didn't even have Hawaii on my radar screen, really. I didn't have a plan to move here, but it was 14 years ago that it occurred. I landed on Maui first, and I'm living now on the Big Island. Yet I learned that when I'm called to go somewhere, I go. It always works out. And I know many people who have moved here and it hasn't worked out. They just thought, oh, I want to live on an island and I want to just be in the trees and the palm trees and the sandy beaches. But it's bigger than that. There's a consciousness that exists here, even in the powerful fiery rock. What was once fire has alchemized into now hardened lava rock. And the consciousness of it is supreme. So I knew that by coming here, while it's pretty and breezy and lovely, there's some power that resides here and it's intense. I broke my arm living on Maui, my left arm, and I've got a beautiful scar I want to share. You probably can't see it. It's a nice zigzaggy thing that I felt was an indoctrination of sorts to just crack open all that has been Gail, so to speak. And on each island, I had the pleasure and honor of being taken under the wing by a kahuna. And here by Humuhula Ali'i Kahuna Nui Eholani Stephanie. And being able to meet ancient ones and traditions and cultures that I would have never had exposure to, that has served in my growth and my softening and in my stealing in truth and light combination. This island is the perfect combination for that for me.
So, for those that don't know, what is a kahuna?
A kahuna is really a woman or a man of great power, indoctrinated in the powerful ways of the Hawaiians, the ancient ones. Many can change the weather if they want to. They can move things out of the way. They can bring in new light. They can bring in new energies. And interestingly enough, this particular kahuna, who is a dear friend of mine as well, another Gemini, I was told to call on her when I first moved into a home here, that when I moved in, I started having a recurring dream. And it was not a pleasant dream. It was happening every night, and I thought I heard a knocking sound. I didn't awaken to hear a knock in real time, but it was in my dream. So I was awake, lucid dreaming, whatever you want to call it, heard this knocking sound, and I would follow it every single night, follow this knocking sound to this little tiny door that was on the outside of my home, but it wasn't there in reality. A little red door with a gold handle in my dream.
Mm.
And every time I went to open this door, I saw a little Hawaiian girl. She was really dirty, as if she'd been in this dark little dirty area for eons. And she was crying and she was saying, help me, help me. And I said, are you okay? And then she would turn into this demon and I'd awaken.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I even had a guest stay with me and said, what was that knocking in the night? I'm like, oh my God. So I called upon this kahuna
Yeah.
who came with one of her hula dancers. She has her own school, halau as it's called, where she teaches hula. And one of the dancers came with her, a male. and they went to each corner of the property and spoke in fluent Hawaiian and did things with water and tea leaves and blessings and so forth. And then went to the area where this little red door was without my having told them ahead of time that this is where I saw the door on this side of my home.
So was it a
And at that
portal?
point, pardon me?
Was it a portal that was opening?
No, it was actually, as she'd come to tell me later, uh, there was a spirit trapped in this home. And this little girl was asking for help to be released. And what came out of my kahuna's mouth was an oli. It's a little Hawaiian song, very all Hawaiian, and it's very potent. It was so nurturing, this, oh, these soothing Hawaiian sounds coming from her. It wasn't like some of the more intense Hawaiian sounds we might
Yeah.
hear, but this was so comforting and soothing and beautiful. And she said this is meant to release her. And I never had that dream again after that day. So this is the power that a kahuna holds. They keep themselves pono, meaning in right alliance with their responsibility to be of service
Mhm.
to the people who dwell here and to the people who've passed on.
That's so powerful because there are souls that are constantly trapped in the earth plane because they're not forgiving, they're not moving on. There's something that has not healed within themselves that they hold on and they don't cross over. It's been my experience in some of the work that I do, especially with my ancestors, where they've been in limbo until they feel like there's been some business settled, and then they set themselves free. And there's a liberation that happens on both sides. They're waiting for us to feel liberated and not be grieving so they can feel liberated and to cross over. Now, I know the angel of death, this is coming up. We're like diving like right now into this from this story. It was a beautiful opening of it, of how did that name come to be? And when you hear the angel of death, what does it even mean? And was there resistance around it?
You bet.
Mhm.
Yes, there was resistance because, look, um, it kept coming to me, this moniker, if you will, in my dreams and in my awakened state
Mhm.
repeatedly over time. And then I started to investigate, what is that? And I recognized or learned that in throughout time immemorial, there has been a female figure who has represented the angel of death, and she is meant to be sort of a gentle guide for transitioning or transformation. A lot of people typically think of something like a dark figure, a brooding, kind of hidden behind a hood with a scythe or whatever it's called, uh, that's meant to be intense and dangerous and dark. Not so in how I'm recognizing her to be an angel of death, is really a benevolent soul, this source of gentility and calmness and beauty and peace. And yet, the angel of death to me has a provoc it can provoke something in people when they hear that name, regardless of their image. When it comes to death itself, there is typically a negative connotation, a fearful sense, not usually positive, right? The angel of death to me is a role that I'm sort of taking on. It's not who I am, it's a role. And I'd like to take that on stage even for an angel of death one woman show. I think that would be the best way for me to reach the most people, to have it be experienced in this way. But it wasn't until fairly recently that I had a picture of my deceased brother show up on my desk, and I didn't put it there. No one was in my house. It was an old photo and it was an adorable one. We loved to be together. And there was the photo. I'm like, hmm, what's he trying to tell me? That was followed by shortly after on my home pod, this song started playing, a song that I had dedicated to him, Billy Joel's Good Night, My Angel.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, I'm listening. I'm listening. And then that very same day, by the end of the day, as I proceeded to walk my dogs at sunset, which I always do, I love the subtle energies that come in at that time. And a white owl, known as a pueo here in Hawaii, came swooping right over my head. And the owl, being a symbol of the afterlife, was just like, okay, this is enough. I got it. I shall proceed with coming forth with the angel of death because I feel uniquely qualified to speak about death based on my own personal experiences and also with all of the interpersonal work or self-realization, the work that I've done to trust inner guidance, be connected to God, spirit, universe, they're kind of merging because I've got strength, familiarity, some level of proficiency, if not mastery in these realms. And I thought, okay, I can be the mouthpiece piece for this, and I have the bandwidth for it. I have a reservoir of depth. I'm not afraid to be controversial. And this topic certainly is. So I'm in.
I love this because as you're speaking, I track energy, and your heart is just opening more and more with this white light, this pure light. And what Spirit is showing me is that you are meant to help liberate people, both the souls that are transitioning. Literally, a guardian to transitions and the angel of death is literally getting the souls even to the higher planes and having being a communicative guide in a way, and then also liberating the people that are grieving here and letting them see this from a new perspective so there can be peace and healing for families. And we're seeing so many transitions, so many deaths happening. I mean, since COVID, it's been kind of crazy with all the deaths, right? Out of the blue, like that. So many people grieving. It's been on the rise, more souls crossing over than ever. And I would like for you to share some of your stories with death so people can understand um, what you've had to move through. I mean, you've had to move through a lot of grief and heartbreak. So if you can share a little bit about that.
Sure. And I'd like to add that I also see this role as being, I could consider myself an ego death doula, if you
Yeah.
want to look at it, because taking on a conversation of this nature, a conversation that people don't typically want to have, talking about death or thinking about their own death or dealing with another's death is just something people want to stand away from, stand down, don't want to go there. And I think that affects our living right now
Mm.
because we're up in this ego-based thought process, fearful way of living with all of that don't no death, no death pushing out in front of us. Our preoccupation with the past and the future takes us out of the present moment. So if we're thinking about someone's death, so to speak, or that they've left us, we're feeling grief or loss, and now we're in the future thinking life without them. What about my death? What I got to protect someone from dying. There's a lot going on in people's minds about death itself that limits their ability to be in the present moment and to experience life joyfully, right? That fear is insidious.
That is such a powerful, powerful thing to speak about because so many of us fear death and fear death of our loved ones. It's like, I gotta just say, I did not lose children in this lifetime, but I know I've lost children in previous lifetimes, and I carry that wound where I've been extra paranoid this lifetime and extra protective and trying to do things differently, but like to the point where I'm sometimes too protective of my children. Hence, we're on this podcast today, and my daughter is traveling at 16 years old overseas on like one of the biggest adventures of her life. So like isn't this just such a perfect conversation? But I want to just place this in the field right now too. You talk about the death doula, and I also think it's really important for people that know that they're about to die, whether they're in hospice, they have cancer, they have a disease, that they work with somebody to start liberating the soul and the forgiveness process because that allows you to transition much smoother with peace. And it's also ceremonial, like a celebration of life with the family, like a connection with the family. Like, this person is going to pass on. Let's celebrate it. Let's come together. Let's do the forgiveness in the family now so there's no more resentment. I mean, this, nobody's doing this and talking about this, but this is powerful work. Yeah.
And that's what we meant that by there are so many facets. I don't know where to
Yeah.
begin because I would love to be in that moment with a family where this beautiful alchemical process is taking place. I mean, I'm getting chills. So
Mhm.
sacred a moment when someone is transitioning so softly into the other realms and taking their last breath. But there is so much resistance to that, right? Oof, my face is getting
No,
chicken
that's
skin.
okay. But there are people, and those of you who are listening to this, please share. There are people that are ready, or this conversation wouldn't be happening. And the work that I do is I help pioneers and innovators of new ways of doing things, new ways of building new systems, new ways of helping families, hospice, disease, death, all of this, right? So, those of you who are even RNs or nurses that are working in this, and you're like, I see people transitioning all the time and the family is grieving, you know that this would be like a service that would really benefit, but you'd have to know the people to connect them to. So, really important medicine here. And I just think that us dropping it in all the different facets of how transitioning, grief, forgiveness, they all, the celebration,
And
all of
beauty.
it, the beauty, all of it needs to be looked at here. So I'm going to bring
And
it
just
back. Okay, go
before
ahead.
before we go there, yes, so we'll go back to that for sure. But um, really, to me, this is about looking at what is being held in the mind, the resistance to even talking about death, or when someone dies, like a loved one in that situation you just beautifully portrayed. They're all around, but then there's so much that will well up for somebody, for the family, in terms of grief and the like. Yet there are two different types of grief, and people, your audience can really touch in with this before I even express this, is that when I'm speaking, I'm not just grabbing information or espousing wisdom. This is primordial truth. This is deeper. It's
It's
it's already
embodied
in
for you.
knowing. Yes,
Yeah.
it's for me, it's embodied, but and for others, it's already in all of us.
Mhm.
It's just that there's so much going on up here, the judgments, the denial, the doubt, the skepticism that will stop and block access to the truth. And so the truth of which I'm speaking, it's sensed, it's a resonance, it generates peace when you can just quiet the thoughts and step back and just be curious, be willing to look at this from a different perspective and see what might arise from there. So I'm not just wanting to educate people and here's some new info for you to add to your book of knowledge. That's
Yeah.
not who I am, but this is really coming from a much deeper embodied place because I've gained this wisdom, I've unlocked it, and I've had my own personal experience. So that being said,
Yes.
the personal experience with death is since a young age, starting with grandparents and then a childhood friend who died, drug overdose, um, from my two brothers who have passed on in their 40s, and my best friend who was killed along with her two young boys by a drunk driver. And I say die and kill, but I don't really see it that way, but I'm just using the words
Mhm.
now for purposes of articulating this experience. Uh, Even my former spouse passed away a year and a half ago. My father transitioned in September of last year, and my darling daddy. And that was followed a week later by a dear sister friend who went through the dying with dignity process. And a week after that, one of my sweet little doggies, Sherman, I buried him over here on the property. And people would think, oh my God, like the stuff you've been through and even just in that 1 3 week period, I mean, I'd be a mess. And I'm like, but I ain't. And I'm not denying myself the opportunity to feel anything. It's not like spiritual bypassing, as some might even label it. It's that, yes, I heard about my father leaving his body, or as I call it, passing through the veil, that thin line between this, what looks real and human, to into the afterlife. And I actually felt so much joy for the liberation from his suffering body, from his suffering mind, that he was now in the truth of life, that in return to home base. In a nanosecond, he went from this to this. We were born at the 0 point, back to it in an instant. And he was enveloped in love. And he was free of all stagnation, of condemnation, of anything that exists in this dense third dimensional realm. And I knew he was whole and loved and being love. And I just made me so stoked and happy for him. And yet I played his favorite song as a Christian pastor, as he was at some point in his life. I played How Great Thou Art, and that sung by Carrie Underwood, who just belts that song out. And I just put my hands to the sky, and the sun was setting, and I just let tears flow of just feeling my dad and knowing he's liberated and truly who he is in his essence, right? Just the pure, eternal, formless, divine grace. And that was, through each person that I mentioned, or dog, I've had the same experience, but it wasn't always like that. But that's where I am now, knowing what I've come to know and reveal in that deep inner knowing. That made a huge difference. In every day I celebrate them, but I'm not bogged down by grief and sadness and despair and depression. And it would be easy for all of us to go there. I have been there myself, and I just don't relate to it that way any longer.
So, what's coming through is the brother who left the
Mm.
picture. This is significant because he has a message for you. And I want to share to share about your brother and his struggles
Mm.
and what led to death, because his story wants to be told right now. And there's healing and a message for you to help others through his story and what your family went through with grieving his loss, and how you went through the forgiveness, how you healed and you looked at it this way. So if you could take us through that journey, because this death is being highlighted from spirit right now to have even more liberation for all our listeners. I think there's going to be something very juicy here.
I'm stoked. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
His name was David,
Mm.
and David and Gail.
Hello, David. I feel it. David's here with us. I can feel it. Mhm.
Yay. And yeah, he's omnipresent for me. He was 15 months my junior. So we grew up really close in doing all things together, going to school together. And there were times when, wow, we were not getting along very well. As brothers and sisters can do, but we were really at it. At one point, he used to ask my mom for permission to hit me. We were like 12, 13. I want to beat her
Yeah.
up. And then David had some interpersonal struggle. He really hit the bottle hard through his lifetime, and pot and alcohol were his like allies to not feel right. That was how he was using it, just a numbing agent. And yet most people around him would say, David, you need to do something about this addiction of yours. It's going to kill you. And I'm like, do not talk to him like that. Okay, no. No. um David knows this. And also, if he dies young, which is looking like that may happen, I always sensed it would, then that will be what happens. In the meantime, loving him unconditionally, just the way he is with whatever he's going through, is the greatest gift you can give him. So for me, that's how I related to him. Like, I get what's going on and I see you and I love you, and it doesn't matter what's happening. You are loved by me. And that kept him in communication with me as well as a natural consequence. It wasn't a manipulation. He just would like to talk to me because I didn't bring any shit to his
Right.
already wounded way, right? So, yeah, and at age 45, one bottle too many, and it eroded his esophagus, and he had cardiac arrest. And um, my mom called me at 6:30 in the morning that day, and I knew if I was getting a call from my mama at 6:30 in the morning, something was up, and I knew it was him. And the moment she expressed that he'd passed on, I just let out a big thing came out of my mouth. I heard a neighbor guy say, "Be quiet." And he knew that something else was going on. It was like a deeper coming through. But that was a pivotal moment for me because, yeah, it was already anticipated by me and I think by my family. But it was also the start of like, wow, he's still with me. He's still with me. And interestingly enough, to this day, somebody told me 8 years ago when he did pass away is that he would show up in the form of a cardinal, a bird. And to this day, he has shown up every day. I feed him nearly by hand every day. And my mom as well. So my mom and I have such joy and peace with this cardinal showing up. We're like, "Hi, David."
That's
And
beautiful.
no, it's like the signs, the symbols, they're all around us. And he's not really gone anyway. That's the part that I find so important to impart, and that I am able to steep in joy when I think of him, is because I see death as an illusion. And in forgiving that illusion, I recognize that my brother is just formless. It doesn't mean that he's gone or that he's dead. The body and the ego succumb to death, not the eternal soul.
So your mom has gone through a tremendous amount of grief to lose two children. I mean, my nanny lost, my mom's a twin sister, so my mom's twin sister passed away, and my mom's older sister passed away, and my nanny lost her husband. So I
Right.
witnessed, that's okay. I'm in perimenopause. I totally, I understand what you're going through. So back to your mom, I want to bring this to oh, I want to bring this alive because it's in the field of the energy and the healing and the fear of losing your mother. And if that's alive for you, because I know you and your mom have become very close through all of this.
Yeah. And we've always been close. I mean, there are times, when we went at it too, not physically, but
Yeah,
mothers and daughters.
yeah,
We have these roads we travel
yeah,
together that are
yeah.
all over the place, and thank God. But there was a time when I would think of my mom dying and be like, I even told her, I'm like, when you die, I'm offing myself the next day. I am taking my life because I cannot do life without you. And that kind of broke her heart, like thinking of that. But I was serious. Like, I can't even, nope, I can't think of life without you, mom. Not possible. And it's so interesting that I say that now because it's like so far afield from where I am about it at this moment.
Yeah.
And she, yeah, that was just recognizing those fearful thoughts
Mhm.
that had me so attached to her
Mhm.
that the very thought of her exiting her body was like, I'm gonna die. I can't, not without you. So transforming the fearful thoughts, in other words, buckling the ego in the back seat and
Yeah.
not letting its voice be so loud that I would even think that having her die or exit her body would mean a certain end of life for me. So it's really the attachment that people suffer with the most after someone departs this earthly plane, or guilt, or a whole host of things we can get into. But now I think I don't have a preoccupation with her death. She seems to have one with hers. And she's going to be 82 on Sunday. She looks gorgeous. I know.
Birthday.
You've seen her. She's
She's
amazing.
beautiful, just like you.
Except this,
Mhm.
no. I want to say this
Lioness,
menopause
lioness.
hair, like everything's melting on me right now, and I'm all right with that. So here's the thing is that um she's thinking she's struggling every day. I see it with a thought that she doesn't want to leave. She's thinking about death. Her body's kind of changing, and she's thinking about death more than ever, her own death. And she says she doesn't want to leave. She doesn't want to leave us. She doesn't want to leave the life she loves. Um, so there's a lot of fear. I said there's a lot of fear-based thinking around death for you right now, Mom. She goes, well, I don't see it as fear. And I was like, well, does it feel loving and peaceful when you're having these thoughts about, I don't want to die because I'm going to leave everybody? Is that generating peace and love? I don't think so. So it's either fear or love. There's nothing else to this existence. That's it. So the fear can encompass a lot of things and be a little shrouded in, it's not fear, it's just I don't want to leave, but it is fear. So in shifting the egoic perspective into how awesome it is that you're going to have this transition into love, pure, unadulterated love that you are, that is around you, that you emanate and exude and be. And so we haven't gone that far to talk about that experience for her. Um, Yet for me, it is when she leaves her body, there will be that moment of like, oh, it happened. It happened. It's like a profound child parent moment, right?
Mhm.
And maybe I'll throw my arms up in the sky again and shed some tears of love and joy. And whatever it is, I don't know what it will look like, but I know what it won't look like. And there won't be a lot of suffering around it. And I think if I told my mom right now that there wouldn't be suffering around it, she might be like, what? Don't you love me? There might be
That's
that
funny.
feeling.
People are like, "You're not
Yeah,
crying?
I
You're
know.
not heartbroken? I
And
didn't
I
mean
think
much to you."
right. I do believe, Nicole, that's why a lot of people go into deep, deep suffering. They think it has to be commensurate with the depth of the love they had for
Mhm.
somebody.
Yeah.
We're kind of drawn to suffering anyway as humans. It's kind of been impregnated in our consciousness and our psyche, but that can be cleared out. The fact is, though, the degree to which we suffer is often thought to be, well, I love them so much, I can't just shed a tear and be done with it.
Right,
Who said that? Who wrote the book on that one? I don't know.
right.
But that's what I mean. The ego is so sly and crafty. The mind just wants us we have to suffer. That's how we've been conditioned to do it.
I look at it as like every time there is a death, right? There's a transition, your whole life changes, and there's actually an opportunity for new life, rebirth for the people. The death happens, those people transition, an opportunity for afterlife, right? That's how I look at it. Death happens, the people that are here still on the earth plane, the families, it's a transitionary period that leads to a new beginning if you have the courage to let go and forgive and move through the grief with knowing that that person is at rest, right? And I think that's what most people fear too is after that happens is, oh no, now what will happen to my life? So for instance, if your mom was to die, you might be okay with the fact that, okay, but now what? How does that change my day-to-day life? How does that shift how I go about my day, right? So that's a very, and that's when, here your other thing, the guardian or the guidance of the unknown, right? The guardian of the unknown.
Yes,
So,
it's really, I think this is the most significant part of the work that I wish to do. Again, this is so new. I haven't even gone with my core themes. I'm having a session with you so we can just get that down because I trust you implicitly, and your body of work is really about having people thrive in their message and be so empowered by it and live it and breathe it.
yeah.
It's time. So the thing is, I think what's most important about what I'd like to present to the world at large, to the mass consciousness, is the fact that when someone has left their body and you're left with, what now? I don't have my spouse or my child or my mom or my dad. The thing is, that is the most beautiful gift that's been granted by the loved one that departed, because you're up against a whole wall of stuff, right?
You have to look
Maybe.
at, you have to
Yeah.
look deep. You guys do
Yeah.
some deep healing,
Yeah.
codependency breaking,
Oh
like
my
all
God.
sorts of different things.
A world of it, a world of hurt is now in your face. And whether it's the sense of loss, whether it's, yeah, feeling like now your source of income, I mean, like they gave you money, you don't have the money any longer, or there's your only love, your spouse, the only one you've ever known, they're gone. What do you panic, all of it, a
You
whole
didn't
world
have
of
proper closure. The people who
right
die of car accidents or things like that,
there.
that murder. Yeah.
It
Like,
shouldn't have happened that way. It
right.
shouldn't. It couldn't. I mean, God, the pain that's going to come up, the
The
pain.
guttural screams. And let's promote that. Like, I want to say that, like, we're not saying, oh, just bypass it. Like, oh, this is going to go on a whole nother topic. And this is why I know Gail loves fascia work and vocal toning and frequency. It's because, guys, when you move through this grief and you move through this shame, you have to feel it. You have to cry it out. The grieving is normal to a point, we're saying. We're not saying to skip that process, but we're also saying that your body stores the trauma. Your body's listening, right? So I've worked with thousands of clients that are in transition and things, and I will tell you, it's stored in their fascia, and some of the most profound shifts in healing comes from healing their body and making sure they're using their body as a divine instrument so it doesn't settle into the tissues and cause autoimmune diseases and all sorts of other things that come on. I know you, I want you to speak to this because Gail set on a healing path when she went to Hawaii, she experienced these deaths, and Gail is a fascia master, I will say. She actually got me on block therapy. I mean, I'm a fascia geek too, but Gail is what got me on block therapy. And I will tell you, when I started using block therapy and working with my fascia, I'm telling you, lifetimes of grief and shame came out of my body. There were times I was laying on that block and I would scream and just start crying. And I don't mean to say this to scare you guys, but like some people don't even get deep tissue massages because, like, oh, it hurts too much because there's stuff that you're carrying. You're carrying stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, we're
Tension
opening
in the
this.
mind,
Yeah.
tension in the body. No two
Yeah.
ways about it, right?
Right? So I think that this needs to, if you have lost a loved one, you're going through grief, part of the coaching and the healing that you need is the body work and the permission to be in sacred spaces, to cry, to scream, to use your voice, to journal, to write, to express. Um, because there's a whole nother trauma holding armor pattern that I got to be strong. I got to be strong. I got to be strong and have it all together for everyone around me, right? Like, Shit is
Yeah.
like I got to be the one who's strong, but inside you're breaking down, and guess what? It's happening in your fascia. So, do you want to speak to this with your, because you've had way more death experiences with like, I couldn't even imagine losing my sisters or my
Mm.
father. I mean, I can't imagine what you've been through or the way that you've, just the way that you've lost people and have experienced death. So I can't speak to that at the level that you can.
Well, do you mean in terms of the grief?
Yeah, the grief and processing it and how the fascia really helped you doing the fascia work.
Yeah, yeah. Gosh, I didn't expect we touch on fascia, but I am so thrilled about that.
Mhm.
It's such a joy to share about it, and I know you love it as well. So I think it is the modern day way to, aside from shifting your perception about things that are disempowering you to something that's really, liberating you, freeing you up, making you more fluid and more in a peaceful state.
Mhm.
It's also, yes, the fascia. I see the mind body as being, you know, together. And that when you work on the fascia in a particular way to melt through adhesions, things that have started to grip, the fascia starts to grip at on the bone to at 2,000 pounds per square inch. So it's like stuck on there. And it's the
So
fascia is
heavy.
wrapped around tendons and muscles and keeps the organs in place, keeps us upright even. It's not really until more recently recognized and regarded as highly as it is for what it provides us. And when you start to feel pain in your body, there's pain in the mind.
Mhm.
And so using even block therapy, which is the only thing I use these days, is this block of wood that has the same density as bone. So when you lie on it in particular configurations, you are squeezing the fascia between the block and your own bones. And it's a beautiful squeeze. It's getting to the point where everything's gripped. So you can start to melt through it or shear it off the bone gently. Yeah. Open up space in the
Those nice.
body.
I feel
Like
like
a squirrel.
the sliding filaments just going, ooh, release.
Yes. And there's
Mhm.
structured water that runs through fascia. There's a frequency to it. It's so full. It allows the cells to migrate back to where they are to allow blood flow and circulation and just open everything up. And imagine what that does. The gift between the mind and the body. The two are exchanging information. They are both opening up. They're both freeing up. They're both so that when grief happens, for example, you're not holding on to it or going stagnant or I would see I'm going to leave him unnamed, but he lost his child and he started stooping over the couple years post loss, if you will, because he was holding it all in his body. Yes, he
Carrying the
shed tears.
burden. Yeah.
Yes,
Carrying
yeah,
like heavy weights on the
yeah.
back. Yeah.
So he looks like 10 years older than he needs to, for example. It's not about how one looks, but it's really that's got to be painful holding on to that both in the mind and the body. So I believe working on the fascia is just essential. And that I relate to grief as there's grief where you are suffering
Mhm.
over this. It shouldn't have happened. This is too hard. I don't want it to be this way. All of it. To That's more of an ego grief. The ego is sourcing that, but a more expanded, more evolved, if you will, more enlightened, illuminating perspective on grief is that you're grieving the eternal. So there's an uplifting to that grief. There's like, wow, a bit of celebration to it. Yes, I honor their transition. It's all beautiful grief. It's not, it's more from that conscious, heart opened, mind altering space of grief where it's allowed and it's not contained and it's not crunching. It's not, I'm using all these things with my hands and body
No, no, because
to describe
you're,
it.
no, that's part of your transmission and part of your gifts are your hands. Um, okay, so this, I want to wrap this around too, because
Yeah, yeah.
the anger that comes when lose people, and I mean, there's a level of grief, anger, all these different emotions that come up. Or I wish, like for instance, for your brother, did your mom go through, I wish I would have done this, I wish I would have done that, or was she at, because I know, I think about my son and things that he has gone through. And if anything was to happen, I could literally see how easy it could be for me to blame myself, like I didn't do enough, like I could have done more, right? And I feel like that's a normal conversation that people have when there's suicide involved. And I just want to say this because I know there's a rise on suicide, drug overdoses, and so much with our youth right now, and the mental health and the families that are dealing with the grief.
Yes.
So, if you could just speak more to that and like tools of how a family can process, because obviously you learned how to look at this higher perspective over experiencing death and healing with your body. I know you do the emotional freedom techniques. I know you work with essential oils, frequency, fascia. So Gail has used vibrational medicine to heal herself, mantra, sound, working with the land, the water, the elements, the kahunas, and whatnot. So I just want us to shed light on this could be the opening of you taking your power back by learning how to play your body like a divine instrument and look at your emotions and your trauma through a different lens. So I'm going to hand that download over to you.
Well, thank you. Uh, I have to say that while all of those tools are well and good, and while yes, they do serve me, and I have there's a depth to us that a spiritual depth that we take to these tools very easily and utilize them from, oils to crystals to what have you. They're around us, statues, whatever it may be. Not everybody is on that path,
That's
but
okay.
yeah, of course. And you don't need to have all that accoutrement to
No.
make it easier to handle or to even grow from what is known as perceived death. That's how I look at it. Death not being actually real. It's more of it's an illusion that we're living in. Now that's a whole nother conversation. And yet that is part of what has sourced my ability, if you will, to uh heal my perception, heal the mind, because the agony and the despair, the sadness is all coming from here.
Hmm.
So that's where I put my focus. And A Course in Miracles has been my
Okay.
greatest ally in being able to shift the mind from fear-based perceptions to that of love, and to recognize that forgiveness, the power of forgiveness. It's not like I forgive you for doing a certain thing, or I forgive myself for being mad. It's like, nope, it's a different way of looking at it. It's like just forgiving the whole field, the illusion of what you think you see, forgiving the separation that caused the agony in the first place. It wasn't actually somebody dying that did it. It's whatever thought that was
Ooh,
generated from the ego
ooh, that's
that,
deep.
yes.
That's deep. So, can you give like an example for the listeners? I get what you're putting down, but I think a couple different examples would help them grasp it more. Like case studies, like,
Oh,
so
yeah.
yeah, like that would be fun.
It's funny because I have it on my list. Like I could do case studies of
Yeah, I like, so give us like a couple of case studies so they can understand what you mean by this. From so yeah.
yeah. This is when we want to shift from thoughts to feeling, because really what we're feeling, if there's despair, for example, it's
Mhm.
born of a thought. Doesn't just randomly occur. Now, I'm not saying not to feel like you had indicated earlier. We're not at all intimating that. What I am recommending or inviting people to experience is when that despair comes, it's a matter of just allowing it to be. Like, all of the pushing away and resisting of not wanting to feel it or not wanting to think of it or of someone having died, that resistance is magnifying it. It's making it huge and overwhelming, and it becomes 10 times, 1,000 times more heavy than it need be.
Mhm.
So what I recommend in those moments is to be able to settle into that feeling. It might feel scary, of course, overwhelming, sure. It's like the only way out is through. So you sit with that despair and feel it all. If tears come, let them come. But what you're not doing is identifying with the shame, the guilt, the it shouldn't be, all the thoughts that are now that drive the despair are being put down here so you can grant yourself the gift of feeling. This is what your departed loved one has granted you as a gift, is this moment of alchemy for you to sit with all of that experience. It's huge. It's a huge realm of a world of emotions, and if you resist feeling that, it intensifies it. So that's why when we can allow the thoughts to just drift off and be in the total experience of it rather than being interested in the suffering of it, allow yourself to be a little willing and a little curious to just feel it, shed those tears. If anger arises, feel it, but don't be in the thought all the time thinking, damn it, I wish they didn't die, or damn it, that asshole killed him. That is just taking you away from the opportunity that's been granted to you in this moment to heal the mind and to evolve into that place where joy, you can tap into that joy again. When you can feel the love, you can feel your loved one's presence. It's all there. It's just not accessible when we're busy identifying with judgment and shame and guilt.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
So much sense. And there's so much energy coming in right now. And through my podcast, those of you that are new to it, or this is your first one, um, wait, that didn't make sense. Those of you who have listened to them before know that I drop activations and practices to help people integrate the information. And Gail and I have just dropped a lot of information. So now we're going to take a sacred pause and I'm going to channel some guidance and release and healing for us. And that allows us to go forward and to continue to talk or to seal up the conversation, however it needs to go. But we don't want to overflow you guys with so much information that you can't really digest it. All
Well,
right.
seeds are being planted in their consciousness nonetheless. It doesn't
Right.
necessarily need to be grokked. This isn't
Right.
something that needs to be taken in and sorted and tried to make sense of or logic around it. No,
Yeah.
it's
But
just
energetically too, I know that it can have like there can be a lot coming in for your systems. And we want your system to get the seeds planted in like a balanced way. We don't want it to be on like overload where you're like zzz. We want you to be like, oh, I can ease in. So let's ease into this space. Like we're slipping on a silk dress, kind of like, oh, it's been a long day. We're slipping into this, okay? So
in.
I invite everyone to close your eyes and sit upright and just place your right hand over your heart and your left hand over your right hand. And if anybody has frankincense, you can grab it and then come back to this video because we want to purify your mind. We want to cleanse your mind of illusions, and frankincense has a way of connecting you to higher truths, um, of distilling information that is potent and valuable for you. Frankincense is a medicine to do that. So you could place that over your heart and then place your right hand over that and then the left hand over that and just ground into the heart space. And notice as you close your eyes and you touch the heart, you're really anchored there. You're solid there. And we're going to invite in our deceased loved ones who have passed, those that want to come through and be acknowledged, those who want to be felt in your hearts. So just be here and let this energy come in and invite in your deceased loved ones for closure and love, and to know that everything is okay. Everything is working out in unimaginable ways. And you just need to know that everything is going to be okay. It's really important. Alasinia korea mataya koro satia koro zoneri kikaria kiria I. And I invite you to release any shame that you're carrying, any grief. Let's just drop off some layers around the heart and open up that throat chakra so you can really courageously speak your truth and how you feel. And no more holding back. Everybody is entitled to differences of opinions. We all have our own higher perspectives. But the power comes when you claim your voice in your own truth. Gail, would you like to add to the field of prayer in this integration?
I bring it back to forgiveness again. Forgiveness being seeing beyond the illusion of separation, of guilt, and of fear. It's a recognition of our divine essence. It is in ourselves, that is, and others to be. We're all of the same bolt of divine cloth. Forgiveness is the gift we give ourselves. But it's a transformation is your opportunity to transform. Forgiveness is your opportunity to transform. Forgive the illusion of what you think you see and what you think you know, and touch into that place where truth, following a thread of truth, leads to peace and joy and bliss. The conditioning will drop away the more you do that. Making it a practice, a devotion to truth. Amen and aho.
Amen and aho. I invite you to really feel this white light coming in all around your heart, as if you're drawing a circle around your heart and you're coloring it in, and it's getting whiter and whiter, and you're filling it in with so much color. Just white, pureness, purity, peace. We really want you to feel peace. Invite you to feel at ease with death, with transition. And this is not just for losing loved ones. It's death and transition of anything in your life. You divorce, you break up with somebody, you lose a job, you have to move to another state, another country, whatever you're transitioning through, this activation is to help you find peace through the process. So I really want us all to be with this white light. And this is a collective field and healing that we're doing right now. And the more of us that visualize this white, pure peace, angelic healing and light that's being offered to us right now, the more we liberate as a collective suffering. And as high priestesses, we're really good at alchemizing suffering. So just bring that energy in and now let your angelic wings open. Let them open. Birds of a feather flock together. This is your invitation now to place a bird or some sort of totem that can remind you that you're okay, that you're on the right track. Whatever it might be, it could be a bird, it could be a butterfly, but pick something now and let that be your guidance as a sign to know that you're okay. Maybe it's the red cardinal, maybe it's a dove, maybe it's an owl, maybe it's a hawk. Whatever it is, you pick that right now to always know that you're okay. And so when that shows up for you, you know that it is a blessing from beyond. The bird medicine is a blessing from beyond. The birds visit us and represent deceased ones in power, in movement, in wisdom, because they're messengers to us to keep going and to have higher perspectives and learn higher truths and to spread our wings and fly. And we can't do that when we're letting ourselves be pummeled by holding that grief, anger, and shame and guilt in the fascia and in the body. So may this activation start to liquefy. I want to say liquefy those knots, that stagnation, so that there's this electric plasmic light coming through that is literally vortexing, creating a field of possibility, of higher truths. Let that activate in you. Let that open the throat chakra even more so you can speak from a higher place, a higher place. Beautiful. Gail, would you like to add anything to that?
I think that is whole and complete in and of itself. Thank you, Mahalo, for that.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you, Gail, for coming on and sharing your wisdom, your beauty, your heart, and your experience, and co-creating this field, this conversation that opens up portals within every listener. And what I mean by that, they open up doors of energy that have been stuck and give you new possibility. It's like turning the key on to a whole new program within you of a higher perspective. And that's what we wish to do for you, is to deliver you realms of new possibilities for your healing and for you navigating this earthly experience, because it is rough. It is rough. Now, Gail, how can people find you and connect with you?
Well, I'm just getting started on this journey.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a website, gailelynn.com, which will you have it in print?
I'll have it all in the show notes, but just for those who want to jot it down, it's going to be in the show notes.
Yeah.
I'll have
And then,
all of
of
the
course, on
information.
Instagram, that's where I'm starting to open up the conversation. And I can't imagine what's going to come down the pike once it all starts flowing. But in Instagram, it's at the Angel of Death, Hawaii. I had to add Hawaii because there are a bunch of angels of death on Instagram. I figured I'd just
And
put it
who would think that, right? Who would know? And so,
but they're
guys,
very different in their approach.
I want this also to inspire you to know that you hear the story, your mess is your medicine, or things that happen to in your life can become the medicine, like the grief that you move through, the heartbreak. Most people who wind up on this journey teaching certain things, it's because we've moved through it, we've embodied it, and we can actually hold the codes and the frequency to help you transform in a way that's relatable. It's like, we didn't just read this in a book, we didn't just study this. It's like, we've been through it. So, just like Gail is coming out and sharing this perspective, which takes courage. So let's applaud her for her courage. I want all of us, we're all evolving to a new aspect of self, even if we have all gifts and we've done other offerings and other services, because Gail's held sacred women's circles. She's done all sorts of things. But this is her next level of service work that is asking to be birthed from her, particularly from her deceased brother. And that's the message I want to pass down to you, Gail. Your brother is asking for you to support. Primarily, this is the message coming through because there are a lot of teenagers right now and young adults that are dying from addiction, overdosing, and suicide. And your lens and perspective of how to love and hold loving unconditional space is so needed. There's not many people pioneering that way of looking at things. So I say this for you guys to hear this story and see the courage that we're all being called to offer a new service based on our past experiences. And it doesn't matter what age you are. That's another thing I want to add to this. When
I'm
it's your
56 and just starting.
right, right? Like it doesn't, but let's just give you kudos. I want to read you guys my tea bag, okay? My tea bag says, celebrate your successes and failures, both required great courage.
Yeah.
That is so perfect for right now because Gail's just getting started with this part. But she's been doing a lot of things for a very, very long time. And it's so I want you guys to all of you who are at a different stage. Hey, I'm 46. Okay. Perimenopause is not stopping me. Menopause is not stopping
Knowledge.
you.
Oh, not a fan.
Those of you who know when you're a woman going through changes, it's that's a whole nother podcast, a whole nother conversation. But literally, guys, this is the invitation for you to really know that you are qualified. You're qualified to rise up. And when you get the call, you do. And so, as a thank you, and I do this with all my guests, as a thank you for coming on here, I want to give you your own little personal, like mini activation because I know you did the a sacred union activation today, and then this. But so I want to give Gail a mini activation as a gift, saying thank you and to help promote her, not promote her, but we are promoting her because she's amazing. But to help her really own her power and how many people she can help on this journey, because I want to see her share her life and her gifts and her experience, because there's so much more to her as well. All right, Gail, are you ready, my dear? So, mm, first of all, we want to just welcome David in. Okay, like we just like want to welcome David in and bring his energy all around you. Okay. And I really invite you to feel his love and gratitude for you having the courage to come even more public to a whole new level today with this. Okay. Just feel the love and the gratitude for how many families and people that you can help by voicing a new perspective on death and how the higher realms are celebrating you for saying yes to being a guide in this way. It's like congratulations, like triumph, horns being blown, okay? This helps those on the other side. You're literally bridging the worlds and creating liberation. Arahiria kura satareato ratiki arahi. Horea, use your hands to weave as I'm giving it to you. Hora sataki rakino koratiki ato sotohiria. Open that heart. Use your hands to weave out anything that's resisting you in the heart from seeing that you can do this, that you're meant to do this, and that your heart will be placed in the people that you are meant to serve. Arasiti akura satari torkinaria hiriahu sikia ikia. Release the fear, any fear about your mother dying, layers that maybe you're not aware of. Ara usotokoriaku satiaki. Go ahead and release your head back. Let your chin go up to the sky. Offer that throat. We're going to work on the jugular notch and the throat chakra and the high heart. Set the intention to receive codes to propel you forward. Beautiful. Bring the head back to center and then open up those arms. And you might even want to lay back on your chair. You just want to open that heart and squeeze those shoulder blades together. Oh, yes. Squeeze them. Release out any tension. Like, yes, yes, yes. Squeeze it out. Release it, squeeze it out, open up that heart, and we're like gonna like eject stuff around relationships with men. There's just some clearing around relationships with men that still is in your body and in your fascia that just kind of slows the electric currency of what can be for you. So we wanna eject. Oh my gosh, that would be like a whole nother session, but we're just doing a mini session here. And we're just gonna cut some cords to relationships with men. And then just some attention into the ovaries and the uterus. Into the belly button, spiral activations. Beautiful rose petals coming in to soften the energy. And a green frog is coming up.
Cool.
And I don't know why, and I have to just say this because this might mean something to you. Sometimes spirit gives me pictures. Kermit the Frog. I don't know. Kermit the Frog is coming through. I don't know what that means. Kermit the Frog is coming through. They're showing me pictures of Kermit the Frog. Like, I don't know. I don't know what
I
that.
do. I don't,
You
I
do
wonder,
know?
see it,
Okay.
is it meant to do what?
It's just a message for you. Kermit the Frog. You'll like you would know. I don't know. Kermit the Frog. Kermit the Frog.
Is it feeling uplifting, Kermit?
It feels uplifting. It almost feels like it's a message from your brother, like Kermit the Frog. I don't know.
Interesting.
Well, whatever Kermit the Frog's personality is goes with that. Like something about that. It's a humorous thing. It's meant to be humorous. And it won't stop. It's like Kermit the Frog, Kermit the Frog, Kermit the Frog. So you sit with that and then let me know what that means to you. Okay. So Kermit the Frog. And Miss Piggy. I don't know what Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy like see, this is how spirit works through me. They give me different images sometimes of whatever that is. I don't. Yeah. Or maybe it's for a listener too coming through. I don't know. If anybody knows that this is coming through, it might mean something for somebody who's meant to hear this that is going through something. But I think it's for you, Gail. I'm almost 100% sure it's for
Kermit
you.
is associated with Matthew, actually.
Oh,
Mm.
okay. And
Why I was like,
Matthew, wait. is, and Matthew was a relationship, and we just cleared some stuff from a relationship. So what does Kermit have to do with Matthew?
I was wearing this hat, a little knit hat. I still have it, and it has, green Kermit face, and his eyeballs were standing up on top, and it's a hat that I wore and took a photograph of when I was moving from Maui to the Big Island, and I was just overwhelmed. Like all my stuff was behind me. I was about to get on a barge and plane and come over here. And that's when I met Matthew, but he saw that photo of me with that hat on, and he was just like, I see her, just no
So
makeup, no
you had
nothing.
him with at Kermit the Frog. Okay,
That's when
so
it's like, oh
see,
wow.
see, guys. Okay, now this is what I want to show you is that if I doubted myself and I didn't just speak what comes through, I wouldn't have said Kermit the Frog. It sounded crazy, right? Like I'm seeing Kermit the Frog, and here we're having like some kind of healing going on. But it Spirit was so persistent. It's like, no, don't let go on this one. Keep telling her it's for her. Because then I started to be like, well, it's for someone else. And they're like, no, it's for her. And so it had to do not with her brother, but it was another man figure, which was Matthew, which was an ex boyfriend. And we just cleared relationship stuff too. So,
But he kept coming back around, Kermit, 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 Kermit. And it's probably that, I could feel that he may die young as well for
oh, okay.
reasons similar to my brother. I don't know. I just, yeah.
So
There-
there's healing here from these codes for you to unpack and sit with. Let me finish up then. Let me just see what's okay. I'm just going to give you codes. And so then you can like work through what that is that needs to be released from you, because part of this is to release the
Mhm.
energy from the relationships and thoughts that block your electric conductivity to
Mhm.
have the energy and the stamina and the confidence and the courage to serve in this new way as the angel of death.
Wow.
So we have to like remove this. It's almost like an overlay from the system. It's like that's what I kind of see it as. It's like an overlay that's just been like, and it wants to be like and pulled off.
Yeah.
So I know you get that. I know you get what I'm putting down. So we're gonna just thank Matthew, thank him for all the lessons and the heartbreak and the grief, all the feels that have come with it. And bring in wind. We want to bring in the element of wind. Let the wind come in and heal you. This is going to be a deeper heart healing that is going to open you around heartbreak with men. And that's going to be key to unlocking this next level. And that's for so many of us high priestesses, guys. If you're a high priestess and you're listening to this, relationships are one of the most difficult things for us. And there's so much healing um, around that. Beautiful. And we're going to take that and peel it off the heart. Just take it and peel it off. Oh, ground now. Now you come into your power. Now you ground into your power and you become that sequoia tree. I love working with the sequoia trees. They're very powerful, they're very grounding. I want you to visualize yourself as a great grandfather sequoia tree. And there's a chief coming in, a male figure chief with high feathers all around him. This man is coming in, and he's just giving you so much love and admiration. I don't know if you know who this man might be. This seems like it's there's all these feathers, like he's a chief, um, and he is asking you to anchor into this part of you, to accept and be firm in it. Be firm. Be firm. Be firm. Be stable. Be firm. Ooh, this is coming in. Be firm. Be stable. Stabilize into it. ground into it, root into it. You will soar high. And then let all the birds fly around you. Let all the birds keep an eye on you and guide you and fly around you. You're safe to do this. Well, that was a very powerful presence that just came in. You're getting taller and stronger. This is your time. Whew. There's a lot of emotion circulating around this. You just have so much support from the other side. It's like everybody, you have guardians that were guardians here and teachers here in some way that became guardians and teachers now on the other side. They're your guardians. And you were a guardian to them that's coming through. And that's you were a guardian to them while they were on earth. And now they're
Oh,
a guardian to you.
oh, what an honor. Uh,
Ah, that was so like beautiful and I feel it like my whole body is like vibrating on how much power you hold and how much love and support. Is there anything you want to just share with? Do you know who is? Do you feel that energy now?
I mean, of course, Native American everything has been in my life for so long, and I have a
Mhm.
big, huge headdress right in my next room.
Yeah.
Uh, but who that player would be, I don't know. Oh, I do know. Fuck. Oh,
That's okay. You can say fuck. I say fuck all the time.
my former spouse.
Yeah, it felt like somebody who was close to you.
We were married in a Native American ceremony by a Lakota medicine man. We built a medicine wheel on our property. He went to South Dakota every year for the powwows and so forth. And he left for the spirit realm a year and a half ago. And his children are still in my life, and they mean the world to me, and still regard me as their stepmother. And
Mm.
so I can see that's him. That's him.
That's him because he said you were a guardian to me. Oh, I got chills. I got chills. I got chills. So wait, so here's another thread for you. Do you
Yeah.
see that it's the men that you've been in relationship with, the two that came up, the Matthew, and then what's this man's name? Okay.
Chuckles is his nickname. Because they always
Well,
laugh.
so this is part of the healing that is happening for you to come into another level. And how just appropriate for all of us that sometimes, oh God, I gotta stop because we would go on tangents, right? Like this just would keep going. This just would keep going.
No.
Yeah, but it is so important because women literally struggle and don't realize how much power they have given away over time to different relationships and different partners. And sometimes we think we've had closure, we think we've released, we think we've done certain things, but there's always sometimes a deeper layer that we can't see that needs to be unraveled. And I'm so excited uh, to be able to share this medicine with you in reciprocation for everything that you shared today. So thank you so much. And thank you
E
for
ho mai kai
listening.
ke mai luna mai e una mea huna noe au una mele e ho mai e ho mai e ho mai.
Wow. Can you give us a little bit more of that one more time? Because, like, I have chills all over my body. Hello, throat chakra.
It's
One more
supposed to
time.
be recited 3 times. I'll do the whole thing the way it's
Okay,
designed.
do the whole thing so we can all receive. And everybody who's now listening to the video, put your hands up with the fingers towards the sky so you can just feel it in the field in the palms of your hands. Those of you who are watching the video, you see what we're doing. But she'll do her own thing. But go ahead. Oof.
E ho mai kai ke mai luna mai e. Una mea huna noe au. Una mele e. E ho mai. E ho mai. E ho mai. E ho mai kai ke mai luna mai e. Una mea huna noe au. Una mele e. E ho mai. E ho mai. E ho mai. E ho mai kai ke mai luna mai e. Una mea huna noe au. Una mele e ho mai, e ho mai, e ho mai.
And so it is done. May you all receive the blessings. We'll have all the offerings for us in the show notes. No more words here. Enjoy. Mm.